Have you wondered what it'd be like to face tank Lagan's I-beam, unempowered? Have you always wished you could eat Rhea's pie chart like a freshly baked piece of apple pie? What a joke. Well, guess what? You're in luck, because the build I'm about to show you can do all of that and way, way more. Alright, hello and welcome to this build guide for what I'm calling the Super Tank. I know, really creative, very original naming, but honestly, anything creative or original would probably just hide what it truly is, which is one of, if not the tankiest thing you can possibly make in last Epoch as of right now. And I don't say that with hyperbole, I am not exaggerating. This is a meta build. This is one of the best builds in the game. People can push this on the arena, and I believe it could probably be first. It is that powerful. It is, in my opinion, overpowered. There are too many things going on here to allow for defense mitigation that makes it almost unkillable in most circumstances. So if you want something like that, well, here it is. This is definitely going to do it for you. All right, let's get into the pros and cons. They're probably pretty obvious, at least some of them. So the first pro is it is so tanky that it's truly overpowered. It is... Well, you saw the videos at the front. This is very, very hard to kill. And the arena is no exception. When you get to the arena, 200 plus is pretty easy to get to. And it's not very challenging even at that point. At the time of this recording, I pushed it to 215 on my first arena attempt and then stopped playing because I had other things to do. By the time this video releases, it will have been pushed further, I am sure, because I'm going to be trying this out again tomorrow. And I expect 300 plus, hopefully. I don't make any mistakes because it should be able to do it pretty easily. It also has surprisingly good mobility. Because we use lunge in the build and because we can just throw on shield rush when we want to, we can get around maps very, very easily. This is actually a pretty good farm build, surprisingly, because you can just run to the end of the monolith and kill whatever your goal is, your objective, without worrying about anything else in the map. Nothing will kill you on the way. So that, along with its arena capabilities, make it good for both farming and arena pushing. So you can use this pretty much however you want. The only thing it's not especially great at is killing bosses, but you're not going to die to bosses unless you really push the damage modifiers up. So it'll get there. It'll just take a little bit longer. How about cons? There's really only one, and that's it is low damage. So there's a lot of builds that will do a lot more damage than this build does. It's not like ZDPS. It's not going to take you forever to kill anything, but when you get some tankier mobs, it will take you longer than many other builds to get through them. But that's okay, because those tanky mobs aren't going to kill you either, so it's just a matter of you beating them harder than they beat you, which you will. All right, so how about for ratings? How hard is this build to play, to gear? As far as playing the build, it's pretty simple. There's a couple of buttons to push, make sure you got things up, but even if you forget those, it's still very tanky. It's really hard to die with this build. But as far as gearing optimally, it takes a lot of work to get it to the state I have it in on the videos that you're seeing on this build guide. So if you want to get to that state, I'm considering this to be more or less an expert build, because you really do have to work up, for example, the regen, the HP, to get them high enough to where the build really, really shines. But you can get 70, even 80% of the power for much, much less work. The majority of damage reduction actually comes from passives and skills. And so you can get this build up and running pretty easily and still push the monolith very, very easily. And so if you want to do just that, not go for optimal, this is actually closer to beginner, somewhere in the beginner advanced range. So it really depends on what your goals are. If you want to push arena, this is definitely advanced. If you just want to get through the monolith without too much hassle, this is an easy build to do. All right, what about future considerations as far as the patches go? This is going to get nerfed. I'm just going to lay it out there for you. At some point, this will get nerfed, especially the block. Look out for that, because the block right now, you can get to 100% block chance, and you can get between 50 and 60% damage reduction. So that's a straight up half or more damage reduction just from the block alone. Plus on block effects, this is the largest reason why this build is so overpowered. It's not the only, but I expect at some point that will get addressed. So if you want to play this in its current state, as powerful as it currently is, you might want to get on it sooner than later. All right, let's go ahead and jump into what the build has to offer, how to make it as tanky as it is on these videos. All right, so let's start with Vengeance. As you probably expect, if you're familiar with Last Epoch, Vengeance is a very tanky skill to use in any tanky playstyles. There's several ways we could build this out. Currently, the new trend is to go for the shred stuff over here, get the armor, switch it over to Fizz Shred, and that's a really good playstyle, but for this build, I think that'll be a little bit weaker because it requires decent attack speed, which we're not going to have great attack speed in this build. So instead, we're going to go for multipliers on this build. We're going to take Executioner, we're going to take Faint Strike, we're going to take Most Vengeful Fighter, and also Blade Paladin. And that will give us 3 multipliers to build up the damage on Vengeance. We are, of course, maximizing the damage reduction. So we've taken 5 of 5 in Bolster, and we haven't taken double Riposte, so that we're getting the most damage reduction from Riposte. Next up, we will take Sigils of Hope. This is playing a dual role. First is give us additional block chance. This is actually going to give us 15, I believe, % block chance as long as we keep our sigils up. We're also going to get a hell of a lot of health regen from this build, which is our primary regen source. So we're going to take a meditation for that. Now, to build up the whole thing, we're going to take 4 empowering sigils, which is just to have last wish up so that we can summon sigils on kill. Just makes it a little bit smoother playstyle. We're going to take 2 in Word of Alacrity to get to Exigency, which is our instant cast option. We're going to take 2 in Iron Sigils and 5 in Enduring Hope. Again, this is more quality of life. Duration is higher, so you have to press the button less often. That's nice. We'll get the additional sigil over here, which will give us the additional 3% shield block here and some additional health regen. Next up on the list is Lunge. Lunge skill tree really only has so much benefit itself, but Lunge as a movement ability to get around, whether it be the arena or whether it be monolith maps, is really useful. So we're going to take 4 of 4 and Into the Fray. You can start with 3 and finish up the 4th one kind of towards the end. That's going to get us to double strike, so we have the 2 charges. We're going to take Tactician for the mana efficiency and the cooldown recovery speed. We're going to take Forge On. This used to be really strong, but this patch, it went from a 4-second period of time to a 2-second. So it's nice, this extra damage reduction, which you're not going to have up 100% of the time, so it's not like a huge deal. But hey, there's only so many options in Lunge. Might as well take some more damage reduction, so here it is. And we're going to take Unstoppable for the invincible while lunging. Get that nice invincibility frame when we're moving from place to place. Just even more damage reduction. Why not add on to it? We're also going to take Initiative, which is a nice node. They have 40% increased damage. In particular, the crit chance is nice too. And then, of course, we get the 5 of 5 Avengers Charge for even more crit chance to get some damage out of the build, because we don't want to be sitting there forever fighting enemies. So here's one source to get it. I also put 1 into Deadly Aim. Honestly, this is just a point to put somewhere. It doesn't really do much of anything. Critting with Lunge isn't very good, but there's not really any other good options either. So put this wherever the hell you want to. Then we're going to move on to Shield Bash. Shield Bash is the new skill in the patch, and in my opinion, there's really only maybe one use for it, and it's pretty much here. We're going to grab 5 of 5 in Protective Impact for another 15% block chance. That means from Sigils and from Shield Bash alone, we're getting 30% block chance just from those 2 sources. We're going to keep this up 100% of the time in Arena by going ahead and taking Flurry of Blows, which takes away the cooldown. Don't worry about the mana cost, because we'll have plenty of mana on this build. It won't be an issue. We're also going to take Cutting Edge to get there. Some Armor Shred stacks are nice, right? Steel Coating was the last thing I took, so just to add a little bit of damage in Shield Bash, really not going to make much of a difference. What we do want to do is take Broaden Shield to get up to Disarming Blows for those Frailty stacks. Frailty is, I believe, 6% damage reduction on the enemy. The enemy does 6% less damage per stack. It caps at 3, so 18%. So here's even more damage reduction when we're using Shield Bash, which we'll be using regularly to keep up Protective Impact. Also took 5 of 5 in Flame Coating. This is more icing on the cake because we're not getting a whole lot of damage out of Shield Bash, but there's not a whole lot of other good options, so might as well just get some extra damage here as well. The last thing we'll take in the skills and specs is Holy Aura, which is one of the reasons we're going Paladin, which I didn't mention before, where this is not a Forge Guard. You might think it is. It's Paladin, one of the reasons for Holy Aura and so powerful. The other one is because you can get more block chance out of Paladin than you can out of Forge Guard. You can build this for Forge Guard and it'll be really good, but I believe Paladin is the most optimal option. Okay, so back to Holy Aura. What are we taking here? We're going to, the primary stuff we want is actually down this way. This is the most valuable stuff out of Holy Aura skill tree. Holy Aura itself gives you increased damage and elemental resistance, which is nice. But we're going to take Shelter from the Storm to get another 25% LA resist and 25% poison resist. There's a lot of our resistance just coming from Holy Aura. And then the real stars of the show are these two nodes here. Mighty Shield gives us block effectiveness, but more importantly, health gained on block, 8 per block. So it's more health regen sources, and then maybe one of the coolest nodes of anything in the Sentinel tree, and also one of the most likely to get nerfed at some point, is got to be against the odds. 21 ward gained on block. When you are surrounded by enough enemies who attack fast enough, you will not only not take damage, you will start to generate ward, and we're talking in the thousands. Like, I've gotten to close to 5,000 ward in the middle of a fight just by getting hit and not taking any damage, but generating ward in the process. It's really crazy to watch it happen. The other things we'll take are Call to Arms for some physical damage and Fanaticism for the attack speed, and 2 of 4 in Vital Boon for some more health gen. Okay, now let's move on to the passive trees. All right, we'll start with 30 points in Sentinel. So we're going to take 8 of 8 in Fearless for that vitality and health regen. We are stacking health and health regen in this build, so this plays a dual role. It's a really nice node for us. We'll also take 5 of 5 in Gladiator for block chance. You'll notice that we'll take every source of block chance we can get to. By the way, my build currently has 99% block chance. I need 1% more to get 100%, but 99% is pretty damn good so far. So get as high as we can, get as close to that as we can is the goal here. We're going to take 5 of 5 in Armor Clad. This is another source of damage reduction, which is a thematic part of this build. All sources of damage reduction we can find we take, so that's why we're running Vengeance, that's why we're running Armor Clad, that's why we're running Shield. Then we're going to take 5 of 5 in Time and Faith to get that mana gained on Vengeance and health gain on Vengeance use, another dual purpose node for us. 2 of 5 in Retaliation. This is really a dump to get to Blade Master, which gives us 30% sword attack and cast speed. Excuse me, we actually want the axe attack and cast speed in this build, but you can also run a sword of this build, so either way, it works out for us. From there, we're going to start taking into the Forge Guard. So, we're going to take 10 of 10 into Battle Hardened. This gives us Fizz resistance when hit and armor when hit. The armor is really nice. The Fizz resistance is nice as well. We're going to take 5 of 5 in Steel Aegis for more block chance. We're going to take 1 point in Weapons Master. This is going to open us up to go up this tree, which is a weird place that most people would not think to do on a build like this, because we're going to take this one, which is like, it's okay, but not that great, and then we're going to take a point here. It's like, wait a second, that's all throwing attack stuff. Why do we want that? Wait a second, we took 4 of 6 in Shield Breaker. It's all throwing attack stuff. What are you doing, man? That's like a whole bunch of wasted nodes. What we really want to do is we want to get up to Hammer and Anvil, which gives us 25% less damage taken and less damage dealt when we are not throwing, which we will never throw. We'll never use a throwing attack whatsoever in this build, so we will always be taking 25% less damage and doing 25% less damage. This is a full tank build, so damage is secondary. Why is this node so good? Well, it's obvious that the 25% less damage is just good in general, but the other big benefit from this is that also applies to damage over time, which is a very difficult thing to find in really any build in the game right now. Damage over time is the hardest thing to find mitigation for, and so having Hammer and Anvil here giving us 25% mitigation against damage over time is pretty huge. That's why I decided to take this node, even with the downside of the less damage dealt. The last thing we're taking is Thornmail. It gives us 200 armor, 200 damage taken by attackers when hit. It's a nice little extra amount of damage that can be put out to enemies. But honestly, if it didn't have the 200 armor, I wouldn't take it. And I have thought multiple times about taking it off, but it definitely serves a good purpose. It's strong. The 200 armor is pretty solid. So I think for now, I'll be keeping it in the build. And if you're taking it, you're going to have just a perfectly fine time with it. You're going to do really well. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, it's extra source of damage, extra source of armor. It's good on both accounts. Okay, next, let's look at Paladin. Of course, we're taking 5 of 5 in Honor for the block chance. We are taking 5 of 8 in Valor for that vitality. The healing effectiveness is pretty much irrelevant. We don't do any healing. But vitality now is 10 health per, and I think it's 3% regen. So that's both good for us. Then we're gonna take 8 of 10 in Flash of Brilliance. More health, blind chance, largely irrelevant, but 120 health is nothing to scoff at. 7 of 7 in Holy Symbol. This serves a dual role as well. It's got the health of 49. It's also got 49% necrotic resistance. We're getting a lot of our resistances from the passive tree, which is really nice. Once we've done that, we're going to take 1 of 10 in Staunch Defender, which is going to open us up to this node, which is the other reason other than Holy Aura why we took Paladin instead of Forge Guard, because it gives us 12% block chance. Now it's 100% less dodge rating, but we don't care because we're not going to use dodge at all in this build. We don't care to dodge anything. We're just going to block everything, so we're good to go. Finally, we've taken 4 of 8 in Faith Armor for the increased armor and critical strike avoidance. This one has some room to go one way or the other, depending on how much critical strike avoidance you have from your gear. You can boost this up further, even take it down a little bit if you find other things you think are more interesting. It's a good node, but not a necessary node. And again, if you need more crit avoidance, this is a source. You can pick stuff out of, for example, like Thorn Mail or Abyssal Endurance, which we haven't got to that yet. That'll be the last thing on that tree. So this is a solid node, not necessary, but solid. So back to the Void Knight. Abyssal Endurance is the only thing we've taken here, 9 of 10. This is nice because, again, health is great for us. And now we've got some void resistance built into our passive tree. So a lot of room there. This build currently is at 94, so there's 6 more points I can take. I'll probably be pushing health, or I could also push World Eater, which is a likely option going forward. Even more regen this time from Leech. Even though we don't have a ton of damage, we have enough to make that node valuable to us. That covers all of the passives. All right, let's talk gearing and idols. This is an important aspect of it, but not necessarily for reasons people might think when they think of a tank. Armor, usually you think about blocking, which is important, but only in really one piece of gear. We're going to get pretty much all of our damage out of a few sources here, outside of the Vengeance tree. And we're going to be building our health and health regen, plus also topping off our resistances where we can. You'll notice I'm not completely capped. Physical is very close because we have 30% physical resistance when hit, so that goes up to what, 59%. So we're taking about 15% more physical resistance, which should tell you something. That means I have more room to take even less damage on physical attacks. Yet am doing perfectly fine. The Void at 52%, you know, that's not ideal, but still not enough to really kill my build. So keep that in mind as you're building this. It's not the end all be all if you don't cap your resistances because you have so much damage reduction from other sources. It's definitely ideal to do so, but you'll be fine without. Eventually I will be capping those, but for now we're good to go. So this is your goal with your gear, primarily. You want resistances, you want health, and you want health regen. So as we go through the gear, you will notice health regen per second, vitality, health, increased health. We've got resistances, health regen, health, increased health, health regen, vitality, health, increased health, health. The trend is pretty clear here. Strength, which is good for armor and damage. Honestly, I would change that for vitality if I could. Necrotic and poison resist. This happens to be an exalted. Armor, increased movement speed. This is a item that I would actually like to improve upon, again, with vitality and health, or health regen instead of armor and strength. Strength, vitality, increase health, regen, armor. Vitality, necrotic, poison resistance, increase health, regen, health. So you get the general sense here, what we're doing with most of our gear. If you can find vitality, if you can find health, regen, if you can find health of other sources, and of course, get your resistances. That's your primary goal for most of your gear, outside of a couple of pieces, mainly the shield, the weapon, and the idols. So push those as far as you can, and you'll get the most out of the build. As far as bases go, we actually have some pretty specific bases throughout. So we're going to want, once you get there, an Oracle Amulet for the less damage over time taken. The higher you get, the better. You're going to want your critical strike avoidance on your body armor and your helmet. Again, the higher you get, the better. By doing so, you have a lot more room going forward to get other items instead of critical strike avoidance on your gear. We're also taking fire resist, move speed, armor boots. These are the top tier boots. And we're taking the fizz resistance and high armor gloves. As far as a weapon goes, I've gone back and forth with what I prefer to have. I've ultimately determined that I think Undisputed is the best option here. There are tankier choices, but Undisputed's damage increase is so high and our damage reduction is so high elsewhere that I think this is the best choice to take so that you can kill things within a reasonable amount of time. I was going to go with like a one-handed sword, but in testing, the difference was pretty appalling. So Undisputed is my preferred choice here. As far as shield goes, I went back and forth between Kite Shield and Solarum Shield. The problem with Kite Shield is it can't get to 100% block chance. Solarum Shield can. So we're going to take the highest block chance we can roll and block effectiveness, but block chance first. We're going to try to get a tier 5 block chance on the prefix, health gained on block, reduced damage taken on block, and finally health. As far as idols, these are very important for the build if you want to have okay clear speed. The thing you need are increased damage with Vengeance. These are the things that also, along with Undisputed, will allow you to do enough damage to where you don't feel like you are just hitting the enemy with a wet paper bag. You need to have these to make it work the right way. If you don't have all 4, you'll still be fine. Your damage will definitely be lower, but once you get all 4 of these at a high roll, this build really takes off. These are part of the reason the gearing is considered more expert, because it's kind of hard to get 4 good ones of these. But if you can, you're going to have a much better time clearing both mono and arena. On top here, I've taken damage leeches, health, increased armor. Really anything tanky or as far as regen goes, up here is totally fine. But this is a good combination to have. The last thing as far as gearing goes, let's talk about blessings, because these are pretty important. So ideally, you're going to get health gained on block or health from the Black Sun. You're going to get increased health regen from Ending the Storm. This one is huge. You can get to 200% health regen increase. That's going to be a lot of health regen. You push this high enough and you can get up to close to 500 health regen. On my current character, I'm over 400 already. You're going to take critical strike avoidance if you need it from Reign of Dragons. If you do not need critical strike avoidance, you can take melee damage leached as health as a really good option. You can work on your resistances on here. You have some room to kind of choose what you want, but I'd say probably one of those would be all resistances is really nice if you need multiple. I wouldn't worry too much about block effectiveness. It's probably not gonna make much of a difference. So probably the leech, all resistance, necrotic, and poison. But critical strike avoidance here is a really good way of almost capping it, along with your helmet and your body armor. You definitely will be, and then you can not worry about it at all going forward. I will be posting a link to this build planner as well, so you guys can see what a sort of ideal version will look like. I'll make sure it's nice and updated with my current build so that you have something to work from. You don't have to refer to the video over and over again. Let's finish up with the rotation. It's pretty simple. There are 2 different rotations depending on where you are. If you're in the Month of Fate, you're going to switch out Shield Bash for Shield Rush, and you're going to literally just rush your way through the map. You're going to use Shield Rush along with Lunge to get through as quickly as you can to the objective of the map. Kill it, move on, continue. Some people might be worried, well, the more you kill in a map, the more you get from the reward chest. That's true, but you also get more from getting higher in the monolith, and I think personally that's going to be even more rewarding. And so don't worry about killing everything on the way. Kill the objective, get as high as you can if you're really trying to farm, say, Exalteds or high tier weapons. As far as the arena goes, Shield Rush off, Shield Bash on. And then the rotation will be largely the same between the 2, except you will be using Shield Bash every 4 seconds so that you maintain optimal uptime of your shield block chance. You're going to also want to make sure you have Forces of Hope up at all times. Just keep track of those and hit the button every once in a while when you need to. Holy Aura can be used for a nice both defensive and offensive buff when you're fighting something that's a little bit tankier or hits a little bit harder. And of course, Lunge can be used just to get back and forth between enemies. This entire time, you'll be using Vengeance as your only damage source. You'll just be attacking whatever you need to, whatever's in your way. Generally, probably target ranged over melee, since melee will just follow you there anyway, and you'll take a little bit less damage when you're in melee range with enemies. And have a good time, because it's going to be a pretty easy time of it. It's not going to take you a whole lot of work to kill things, and you're not going to be worried too much about your health. So it'll be pretty easy. If you want to push this in the arena, you absolutely can. And you can push this really high in the arena. And that's not just this build, but it's really any kind of build that's going to use this kind of damage reduction stacking with shields. So I think ultimately by the end of this patch, you're going to be seeing a lot of Sentinel builds that are pushing really high. Right now, there's a shield throw build that's pushing really high. Okay, that covers everything on there. I will also give the loot filter for this. I have an endgame loot filter that's pretty detailed. It's very detailed. It's only for endgame. Don't try to use this when you are just leveling. It's not going to do you much good. Once you get to endgame, this will help you identify the right items that you want for your build. All right, that's going to do it for this rather extensive build guide. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I stream 5 to 6 days a week on Twitch. Would love to have you join us. We have a pretty vibrant community at this point. Also, Discord is pretty vibrant as well. It's really cool to watch both of these things grow as the game grows. It's been great to have people join us and just become a part of the community. Feel free to join us. We encourage you to join us in that community. Get in on all the conversations. Just have a good time. Learn some things. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoy this build. This is a crazy build. Enjoy it while it lasts, because I really don't think it's going to last all that long, at least not in its current state of power. So get in while it's hot. All right, have a great time in Last Epoch, and I'll see y'all again real soon.